The screech of tires still echoes in my nightmares. Sometimes I wake up in a cold sweat, thinking I'm back on that street, watching my little girl crumple to the asphalt, her white cane snapped in half, and Karen standing there, hands still on the wheel, wearing a smile I'll never forget. Not one of horror or regret. No, what I saw was something colder, more satisfied, like she'd finally crossed a finish line she'd been running toward for months. People talk about the face of evil. I saw it that morning, sitting behind the wheel of a luxury SUV, watching my daughter bleed out on the pavement. But before I tell you how Karen Mitchell's perfect world unraveled in less time than it takes to microwave popcorn, let me set the scene. Because you need to understand what kind of place breeds this level of hatred dressed up as community standards. 6 months before everything exploded, I moved to Willowbrook Estates. Picture tree-lined streets, mailboxes that look like they belong in a magazine spread, and houses so polished you'd swear there's an HOA official polishing the bricks every morning. My name's Daniel Tran. After a lifetime of government work, 25 years building up a career brick by brick, I'd finally scraped together enough for Emma and me to live somewhere safe, somewhere she could just be a kid. Emma, my miracle. Born completely blind from a rare genetic condition, but she's got this laugh that turns bad days around, this determination that would humble a Navy SEAL. By the time she was 6, she knew every bump in our old sidewalk by heart. Never tripped, never complained. Moving to Willowbrook was her idea of an adventure, a blank map waiting to be filled. I can still hear her tapping her cane along the new block, memorizing every turn, every mailbox, drawing the world in her mind one sound at a time. I'll never forget the first time Karen Mitchell made herself known. It was a Tuesday, just another practice walk for Emma. We're coming down the street when this woman calls out, sharp as a knife, "Excuse me." She's standing at the end of her driveway, not a hair out of place, wearing a suit you'd need a small loan to buy. "I'm Karen Mitchell, president of the Willowbrook Estates HOA. She hands me a gold-embossed business card, like she's expecting applause. Then she goes, "There have been complaints about the noise." Meaning Emma's cane. "We have standards here. Noise ordinances." The implication is clear. Maybe this place isn't right for your particular needs. You ever have a moment where you realize someone doesn't see your child as a person, but as a problem? That was my introduction to Karen. Over the next weeks, the little complaints stacked up. Emma's cane too noisy, her walking too slow, the mat outside our door unsightly. Fines started landing in the mailbox, just small enough to avoid hearings, just big enough to sting. Emma's smile got thinner. She stopped walking the block by herself. She'd asked me to drive her instead, scared she was bringing trouble on the family. And Karen's campaign went beyond bureaucracy. She spread rumors, talked about Emma as a liability, even lobbied for speed bumps in front of our house, all couched in the language of safety. Looking back, it feels like the whole neighborhood was holding its breath, waiting for someone to make a move. That someone was Karen. The morning it happened, Emma was setting out to conquer the toughest route she'd ever tried, all on her own. She wore her favorite purple jacket and had braided her hair by herself. I stood on the porch, coffee in hand, watching her tap her cane. Perfect posture, listening for traffic, waiting for her chance to cross. That's when Karen's Range Rover came around the corner, faster than anybody drives on these streets. At first, I just thought, reckless, but nothing out of the ordinary. Then I saw her hands on the wheel, her eyes locked on Emma. The engine roared, and before I could move, she jerked the wheel, mounted the curb, and struck my daughter. The sound, that crunch, will haunt me till I die. Emma's body flew, her cane shattered, and Karen, she just sat there. Then, as neighbors ran out, she stepped out, checked her bumper, and said loud enough for everyone to hear, "Look what she's done to my car. This is exactly what I warned you about." People gasped. Phones came out. Even then, Karen acted like she was untouchable, above the rules, above basic decency. I remember kneeling by Emma, calling for help, my hands shaking so bad I could barely dial. Mrs. Patterson, from across the street, was the one who finally got through to 911. Meanwhile, Karen was loudly blaming my 8-year-old for being unsupervised, still talking property values while my daughter bled on the pavement. That was it for me. I'd spent months biting my tongue, trying to play by the rules. But you can't reason with evil. I pulled out my phone and made a call most people don't know you can even make. "This is Deputy Director Tran," I said. I need a federal team. Now, we have a hate crime against a disabled minor. 3 minutes later, you could hear the helicopters. Black SUVs sealed off the street. The FBI's hostage rescue team spilled out. Tactical gear, guns, the works. Karen's jaw dropped. She started name-dropping politicians, still convinced her connections would save her. Didn't matter. The team leader told her, "You're under federal investigation for a hate crime." Karen went pale for the first time since I'd met her. They cuffed her right there, in front of the whole neighborhood. Emma survived, thank God. She had a broken leg, concussion, and more bruises than I could count, but she pulled through. I remember sitting in the hospital, her tiny hand in mine, and promising her no one would ever hurt her again. The FBI processed Karen's Range Rover, took statements from neighbors, and collected every second of video. Mrs. Patterson's account sealed it. She saw Karen accelerate toward Emma, saw her swerve. And for all Karen's lawyers, for all her money and connections, she couldn't talk her way out of this one. Her trial was fast. The jury saw footage of her grinning as she looked down at Emma's broken body. They heard emails, phone calls, a months-long pattern of targeting my daughter for being blind. The verdict was guilty on all counts. 35 years in federal prison, no parole. The judge told her, "You have committed one of the most despicable hate crimes this court has ever seen." But here's the twist, the part one didn't see coming. After the sentencing, Karen's lawyer called, saying Karen wanted to meet with us. At first, I refused. But Emma, wise beyond her years, said, "Maybe she needs to see that I'm still here. Maybe that's how people change." So we went. The woman who tried to destroy my daughter sat across a metal table, shaking, finally admitting the truth. She'd lost her own disabled son, never forgave herself, and took it out on every child who reminded her of that loss. Emma listened, then walked around and put her hand on Karen's shoulder. "I forgive you," she said. "I've never been prouder or more humbled." That forgiveness started something new. Karen began working with disability advocacy programs in prison, writing testimony that helped strengthen federal hate crime protections. Emma's case became national news. Congress passed new legislation, the Emma Tran Act, making it impossible for HOAs to hide discrimination behind paperwork. Our neighborhood, once cold and exclusive, transformed. Textured walkways, audible traffic signals, kids of all abilities playing together. Emma's cane, once an annoyance, is now a symbol of pride. I get letters from parents around the country, families who found the courage to fight back. Emma's resilience, her willingness to forgive, became a beacon. She speaks at conferences, meets with lawmakers, dreams of a world where every kid is free to just be a kid. And Karen? She's still in prison, serving a sentence she can't escape. But her story proves people can change, even if it comes at a terrible cost. So, here's my question for you. What would you do if it was your child? Where do we draw the line between justice and forgiveness? Would you have found the strength to forgive, or would you want revenge? Drop your thoughts below, because the conversation about justice, community, and compassion is just getting started.